Welcome to Speak English with me.
Improve your vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation with our engaging lessons.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Speak English with me, the podcast where you learn natural English through real conversations. I'm Sam.
And I'm Emma. Today we're talking about two tiny words that cause a surprisingly big problem for English learners: house and home.
Before we jump in, if these conversations help you sound more natural in English, follow the podcast and share it with a friend who is learning too. We'd really appreciate it.
So, Sam, can I start with a question?
You usually do.
If I text you, "Are you home?" and you reply, "Yes, I'm home," everything sounds normal. But if you reply, "Yes, I'm in my house," I suddenly feel like something is different. Why?
That's the question, isn't it? Both sentences make sense, but they don't create the same feeling.
And that's what makes this topic so interesting. It isn't just about vocabulary, it's about how English speakers think.
I love topics like this because learners often say, "I know both words, but I never know which one to choose."
I've heard that too. People worry they'll sound strange even though they know the basic meanings.
Here's the good news. By the end of today's conversation, you'll stop translating these words and start feeling the difference between them.
Let's make it simple. When you hear the word house, what do you imagine?
A building, a roof, walls, windows, a front door.
Same here. It's something you can see from the outside.
Now change one word, home.
That's different already. I don't picture bricks anymore. I picture walking through the door after a long day and thinking, I can finally relax.
That's the heart of today's lesson. A house is usually the building. Home is usually the feeling.
Notice the word usually. English isn't a collection of perfect rules. Context matters.
Let's imagine we're walking through a beautiful neighborhood. We see a huge place with a swimming pool.
You point at it and say, "That's a beautiful house."
Natural?
Very natural. You're describing what you see.
But if I say, "That's a beautiful home," it sounds warmer.
Because now you're imagining the life inside. Family dinners, birthday parties, friends visiting, someone reading on the sofa while music plays in the background.
One word changes the picture completely.
That's why native speakers often choose home when emotion matters.
Can I tell you a quick story?
Of course.
When I was a student, I rented a tiny apartment. The furniture didn't match. The kitchen was so small that two people couldn't stand in it comfortably.
That sounds challenging.
It was. But every Friday, my friends came over. We'd cook something simple, laugh for hours, and forget about exams for one evening. Looking back, I never remember the size of the apartment. I remember how it felt.
So when you think about that place now, you don't think that was a nice house.
No, I think that was home for a while.
That I love because it shows that home isn't always where you grew up. Sometimes it's a place that slowly becomes part of your life.
Your turn. Have you ever had a moment like that?
Yes. After I moved to another city, everything felt unfamiliar. New streets, new neighbors, new routines. For the first few weeks, I kept saying, "I miss home."
Were you talking about your old apartment?
Not really. I was talking about my parents, my friends, the cafe near my old neighborhood, and even the sound of birds outside my bedroom window every morning. None of those things were part of a building. They were part of my life.
That's such an important point for English learners. Home is often connected to people, memories, comfort, and belonging.
Here's another example. Imagine someone buys a new place. Which sounds kinder? Congratulations on your new house, or welcome to your new home?
I'd choose the second one every time.
Me too. It feels more personal. You're wishing someone happiness, not just complimenting a building.
So the next time you hear someone say, "I'm going home," don't imagine they're giving directions. They're talking about returning to the place where they feel they belong.
And that's only the beginning because there's lots of everyday expressions with the word home that learners hear all the time. Once you understand those expressions, your English will sound much more natural.
You know, Emma, I think this is the point where many learners start asking another question. They understand that home has an emotional meaning, but then they hear someone say, "I bought a new home," and suddenly they're confused again.
That's a great observation because native speakers do say that. If you're looking at houses for sale online, you'll often see a sentence like, "Find your dream home."
Not find your dream house.
Sometimes you'll see that too, especially if the advertisement is focusing on the size of the building or the design. But dream home is much more common because the advertisement isn't really selling bricks and windows, it's selling a lifestyle.
That's a clever way to think about it. They're inviting you to imagine your future. They're saying, picture yourself drinking coffee on the balcony, celebrating birthdays in the dining room, watching your children grow up here. It's an emotional picture.
That's why language is so interesting. Two words can describe the same place, but they don't invite you to feel the same thing.
Let's try a little challenge for everyone listening. Imagine I say 2 sentences.
I'm ready.
I'm say, the firefighters arrived at the house.
Very normal.
The firefighters arrived at the home.
That changes the feeling. The second sentence makes me think about the people living there. I immediately wonder, is everyone safe? It feels more personal because the word home reminds us that real lives exist inside that building.
That's such a small change, but it creates a different emotional reaction.
Here's another pair. The house has 6 bedrooms.
You're describing the building.
The home feels warm and welcoming.
Now you're describing the atmosphere.
Notice that we're talking about 2 different things. One sentence measures the property, the other describes the experience of being there.
I think that's where learners become more confident. Instead of asking which word is correct, they start asking, what do I want people to picture?
That's a much better question.
Let's look at another situation. Imagine you're visiting a friend for the first time. You knock on the door, they smile, and they say, "Come in, make yourself at home."
That's one of my favorite English expressions.
Mine too.
And here's something important for everyone listening. If someone says, "make yourself at home," they are not asking you to behave as if you own the building.
Please don't start moving the furniture.
Or painting the walls.
Your friend might not invite you back.
What they're really saying is, relax, don't feel nervous, sit wherever you're comfortable. If you're thirsty, ask for a glass of water. We want you to feel welcome.
So it's an invitation to be comfortable.
Right. It's about removing the awkwardness that people sometimes feel when they're in someone else's place.
I still remember visiting one of my uncles when I was younger. Every single time I walked through the door, before I even sat down, he'd say, "Make yourself at home."
Did you?
Eventually, yes. The first few visits, I sat very carefully on the sofa because I didn't want to make a mess. I was worried about touching anything.
I think we've all done that.
Then one day, my uncle laughed and said, "Sam, you've been visiting us for years. Stop acting like you're in a museum."
That's funny.
After that, I felt much more relaxed. I realized he genuinely wanted me to feel comfortable, not like a guest who had to be perfectly polite every second.
That's a wonderful example because that's the real meaning behind the expression.
Now, imagine changing just one word. Make yourself at house.
It sounds completely wrong.
And that's worth remembering. Some expressions belong to one word only. You can't simply replace home with house because they aren't interchangeable in every situation.
Here's another expression you'll hear almost every day. I'm finally home.
People say that after work,
People say that after school,
after a long holiday,
even after spending just one night away.
and nobody stops to think about the grammar. It simply feels natural.
That's because the sentence isn't focusing on the building, it's focusing on the feeling of arriving somewhere familiar.
Let me ask you something. Have you ever come back from a fantastic vacation and still felt happy to be home?
Every single time.
Really? Even after visiting beautiful places?
Especially then. I love traveling. I love discovering new cities and trying different food, but after several days, I begin to miss the little things that never seemed important before.
Like what?
My own pillow, my favorite mug, the quiet walk to the bakery near my apartment, even knowing where everything is in my kitchen. Those ordinary little details become surprisingly valuable.
I know what you mean. When I'm traveling, I enjoy staying in hotels, but after a while, I find myself thinking, I'd love one quiet evening at home.
It's amazing how ordinary things suddenly become special when they're missing.
And that's another reason native speakers naturally choose the word home. It's connected to comfort, routines, and the people or places that make everyday life feel familiar.
There's another mistake I often hear from learners.
Which one?
Someone asks, "Where are you?" and they answer, "I'm at my house."
That's not always wrong.
No, and that's the important part. It's perfectly natural if you're emphasizing your location. Maybe your friend is looking for you, or you're explaining why you can't meet right now.
For example, sorry, I'm at my house. I'll leave in 10 minutes.
That's a good example. But if someone simply asks, "Are you home?" the most natural answer is usually, "Yes, I'm home."
Those little differences make conversations sound much smoother.
They also help you stop translating word for word from your first language.
That's one of the biggest steps towards sounding natural. Instead of asking yourself, which English word matches my language, you begin asking, which word would an English speaker naturally choose in this moment?
And once you start thinking that way, you notice something wonderful. The language becomes less about memorizing rules and more about understanding people.
That's when learning English starts to feel much more enjoyable.
Speaking of sounding natural, I think this is where learners suddenly realize that the word home appears everywhere in English. Once you start paying attention, you hear it all the time.
You really do. It's almost like buying a new car. You never notice that model on the road until you own one, and then you see it everywhere.
That's a perfect comparison. After today's episode, I think our listeners are going to hear the word home much more often than they ever noticed before.
Let's start with one of the most common expressions in English. There's no place like home.
I love that expression because it's simple, but it says so much.
It means that no matter where you travel or how exciting your adventures are, nothing replaces the comfort and familiarity of home.
I remember meeting a traveler who had visited more than 40 countries. I asked him what his favorite place was, expecting him to name a beautiful beach or an amazing city.
What did he say?
He smiled and said, "Honestly, after a few days, my favorite place is always my own kitchen."
That's brilliant. I laughed at first, but then I understood what he meant. He wasn't talking about cooking, he was talking about familiarity. He knew where every cup was, how the coffee tasted, and how peaceful his mornings felt.
That's something many people discover after traveling. New experiences are exciting, but familiar experiences can be comforting in a completely different way.
Here's another expression you'll hear every day. I feel at home.
Notice that we don't always mean our own home.
That's true. You could visit another country and say, I feel at home here.
Or you might join a new company and after a few months say, "I finally feel at home with my team."
You're not saying that the office has become your house.
I certainly hope nobody is sleeping under their desk.
That would make Monday mornings very interesting.
The expression means you feel comfortable, you feel accepted, you don't feel like a stranger anymore.
That's such a useful phrase because it isn't limited to buildings.
Let me give another example. Imagine you start taking a dance class. During the first lesson, you feel nervous, you don't know anyone, and you're worried about making mistakes.
I think everyone has experienced that feeling.
Then, after a few weeks, you know everyone's name. You laugh together, you encourage each other, and one day you say, "I really feel at home here."
That's a wonderful example because nothing about the building changed, the feeling changed.
Language often follows emotions more than physical objects.
Here's one that learners sometimes misunderstand. Hometown.
That's a very common word.
Your hometown is the town or city where you grew up or where you consider your roots to be.
And notice something interesting. We don't say house town.
That would sound very strange.
Because the idea isn't connected to a building, it's connected to the place that feels like your origin.
Whenever people ask me about my hometown, I don't think about one particular house. I think about familiar streets, neighbors, local parks, old teachers, and childhood memories.
That's why the word fits so naturally. It's carrying an emotional meaning once again.
Let's move to another expression that has become much more common over the last few years, working from home.
Almost everyone has heard that phrase now.
Imagine someone asks, "Are you going to the office tomorrow?"
You answer, "No, I'm working from home."
Nobody would naturally say, "I'm working from house."
That sounds like the title of a very unusual television show.
I'd probably watch one episode just to find out what it was about.
Me too. But seriously, working from home has become part of everyday English because it describes your working arrangement, not the building itself.
While we're talking about work, there's another expression that confuses learners: home office.
That's right.
Your home office is simply the room or area where you work inside your home. It doesn't have to be a separate room. It could be a quiet corner with a desk and a laptop.
Mine changes depending on where the sunlight is.
That's actually very realistic. I think many people listening can relate to that.
Now let's look at a word that uses house instead: household.
That's an important one because it doesn't mean the building.
A household means the people who live together in one home.
For example, someone might say, there are 5 people in my household. They're counting people, not rooms.
Or you might hear every household received a letter.
Again, the focus is on the people living there.
It's one of those words that learners often recognize, but they aren't always confident using it.
Here's one that I really like: housewarming party.
I love those.
For anyone hearing that expression for the first time, a housewarming party is a celebration after someone moves into a new place.
Friends and family visit, bring small gifts, enjoy food together, and celebrate the beginning of a new chapter.
The funny thing is that the name uses the word house.
But the purpose is to help make it feel like a home.
I never thought about it that way.
Isn't it interesting?
It really is. People arrive carrying flowers, plants, books, candles, or homemade food. They're not improving the building itself. They're helping create memories inside it.
That's a lovely way to think about it. Can I ask you something?
Always.
If you could only choose one thing that makes a place feel like home, what would it be?
That's difficult.
Take your time.
I think I'd choose conversation. I've noticed that when a place is full of kind conversations, laughter, and people who genuinely listen to one another, it begins to feel welcoming very quickly.
I wasn't expecting that answer.
What were you expecting?
Maybe food.
Food is a very close second.
For me, it's probably routine. I love those ordinary moments that repeat every day without much thought. Making tea in the morning, opening the windows, reading for a few minutes before bed. Those little habits quietly tell my brain, you're home.
That's beautiful because it reminds us that home isn't built in one day. It's built through hundreds of ordinary moments that slowly become part of our lives.
And maybe that's why this word is so powerful. It isn't just about where we live, it's about where we become ourselves.
That's a thought worth remembering the next time you hear someone say, "I'm finally home," because now you'll hear much more than 4 simple words.
You know, Emma, I have an idea.
That usually means you're about to test me.
Maybe just a little.
Go on then.
I'm going to describe a situation, and you tell me whether you'd naturally choose house or home. More importantly, tell us why.
I like this. It feels like real conversation practice.
Situation number 1. You've been on a business trip for 5 days. Your flight lands late at night. You unlock the front door, put your suitcase on the floor, take a deep breath, and send a message to your family.
I'd write, "I'm finally home."
Why?
Because I'm talking more about relief than location. I finished the journey. I'm back where I feel comfortable. That's the feeling I want to express.
Perfect. Now let's change the situation. Your friend is driving around your neighborhood and calls you.
They ask, "Where are you?"
You answer,
"I'm at my house."
why not, I'm home.
I could say I'm home, and that would sound very natural too. But if my friend is trying to find me, "I'm at my house" gives a little more emphasis to my physical location. It tells them where I am rather than how I feel.
That's a really useful distinction. Sometimes both answers work, but one fits the situation a little better.
Language often works like that. It's not always about right and wrong. It's about choosing the expression that sounds most natural for that moment.
Here's another one. You're watching a television program where an architect is showing viewers around an incredible building with a cinema room, a swimming pool, and an enormous garden.
I'd probably hear them say, "This house has 8 bedrooms."
Because they're describing the property.
Right, they're talking about the design, the structure, the materials, and the layout.
But imagine the program ends by interviewing the family who lives there.
I wouldn't be surprised if one of them smiled and said, "We've created a wonderful home here."
Isn't that interesting? The conversation moves from the building to the people.
And without even noticing it, the vocabulary changes too.
Let's do another one. A little child has been playing outside all afternoon. It suddenly starts raining.
The child's mother opens the door and shouts, "Come home."
She doesn't shout, "Come to the house."
Unless she's trying to sound like a robot.
That would certainly surprise the neighbors.
It would.
Here's something I've noticed. Many learners spend years trying to memorize vocabulary lists, but native speakers build strong connections between words and emotions.
I couldn't agree more. Think about the songs you've heard in English. How often do you hear the word home?
All the time.
That's because songs often talk about love, family, missing someone, growing up, or finding where you belong. The emotional meaning of home fits those ideas beautifully.
You rarely hear people singing passionately about a house.
Unless they're real estate agents with musical talent.
I'd buy a ticket just to see that performance.
Me too.
Before we finish, I'd like everyone listening to try one simple exercise this week.
This is a good one.
Every time you watch an English film, television series, YouTube video, or interview, listen carefully for these 2 words.
Don't pause the video every 5 seconds.
No, just listen naturally.
When you hear house, ask yourself, are they talking about the building?
And when you hear home, ask yourself, are they talking about comfort, belonging, family, or a place that feels familiar?
After a while, you'll stop translating. Your brain will begin noticing the pattern by itself.
That's one of the best ways to improve your English. Instead of memorizing isolated rules, you collect hundreds of real examples.
Little by little, those examples become part of your own English.
Before we say goodbye, let's have a one final word tour and review some of today's most useful language.
First, house. In most situations, this refers to the physical building. You can describe its size, color, design, garden, roof, or rooms.
Next, home. This usually refers to the place where you feel comfortable, safe, accepted, and connected. It's often more emotional than physical.
We also learned the expression, make yourself at home. That's a friendly way of telling someone to relax and feel comfortable when they visit you.
Then we had feel at home. You can use this when you feel comfortable somewhere, even if it isn't your own home.
We talked about hometown, which means the town or city you grew up in or where you feel your roots are.
We also looked at working from home and home office, 2 expressions that have become part of everyday English.
And don't forget household. That's the people who live together in one home, not the building itself.
Finally, we mentioned a housewarming party, the celebration people have after moving into a new place.
If you remember only one idea from today's conversation, let it be this. A house is something you can build with bricks and wood.
A home is something you build with moments, relationships, kindness, laughter, and memories.
That's why 2 people can live in houses that look almost identical from the outside, but experience them in completely different ways.
And once you understand that difference, choosing between these 2 words becomes much easier.
We hope today's conversation helps you notice these expressions the next time you hear English around you. The more you notice them, the more naturally you'll begin using them yourself.
Thanks for spending this time with us. We always enjoy having these conversations with you, and we hope they make your English feel a little more natural every week.
Take care of yourselves, keep listening, keep speaking, and remember that every conversation brings you one step closer to confidence. We'll see you in the next episode.